Welcome to a new Legendarium series about the Wars of the Roses. We've just crossed 1,000 subscribers, and I wanted to do something big to celebrate. In Episode 1, Reign of the Mad King, we will talk about how the rise of great magnates after the death of King Edward III made it possible to rebel against a weak king such as Henry VI. The seeds for the Wars of the Roses came about with the death of King Edward III of England in 1377. His eldest son, Edward the Black Prince, died before his father, and the Black Prince's 10-year-old son, Richard of Bordeaux, took the throne. As the biblical verse says, "Woe to the land ruled by a child." After a 22-year reign which saw both a flourishing of the arts and frequent bouts of political turmoil, one of Richard's cousins, Henry of Lancaster, deposed and probably murdered Richard II. He became King Henry IV and passed the throne in 1413 to his son Henry V. Since Richard II had been promoted ahead of 4 of his uncles, all of whom started families and sired heirs, many leading lords also had claims to the throne. Furthermore, Richard III established his younger sons as dukes, with their own retinues and lands, a practice called bastard feudalism. The two most important branches of the Plantagenet family became the Lancasters, who held the throne, and the Yorks, descended from Edward's second son. And after Henry IV showed that a man with a drop of royal blood could seize the throne, any one of them could do the same, if a weak king reigned. Such a king came to the throne in 1422 when Henry V died. Though revered as the victor of Agincourt, when Henry V died, he left a kingdom overtaxed to finance his wars and overstretched in France. This would have tested even a capable monarch, and his son Henry VI proved to be anything but that. Inheriting the throne at 9 months old, Henry VI showed himself to be weak, oversensitive, and prone to emotional breakdowns. His advisors proved able to manipulate him, and they urged him to marry Margaret of Anjou to fortify the English position on the continent. She proved to be a beautiful, intelligent, and capable woman, but also a ruthless and ambitious power-monger who made those who crossed her pay dearly. Margaret took great inspiration from her mother Isabella, the Duchess of Lorraine, who personally led armies in battle and sidelined her own husband in governing the duchy. Upon settling in England, Margaret proved so formidable that Henry VI became the first king since William the Conqueror not to take a mistress. Indeed, he once fled the court when a lord brought topless dancers in for a Christmas celebration. Margaret also found powerful allies whom she could promote and rule through. The Earls of Suffolk and Somerset proved eager to curry favor with the Queen. Of course, Queen Isabella overlooked their habit of using the royal purse as a personal bank account and their inept handling of the 100 Years' War in France. Suffolk became especially hated, and Londoners often held meetings calling for his head. After the English holdings in Normandy collapsed in 1450, King Henry VI finally gave into pressure and ordered Suffolk into exile. His ship never made it out of port. Angry men stormed the ship, murdered the Duke, and fishermen found his body washed up on the shores of Dover. Not for the last time, Englishmen voted with their swords. In his more lucid days, Henry could be an amiable man, making shows of courtly love to his wife, having a tender relationship with the Queen, and holding well-received celebrations in his court. Yet with the final loss of Bordeaux in 1453, English holdings in France vanished except for the tiny port city of Calais. This disaster left the royal coffers empty, divided the great houses, and brought thousands of unemployed soldiers home. Henry's fragile mind snapped. He became effectively catatonic for more than a year. Not even the birth of his heir, Edward of Westminster, that same year, could bring him out of his trance-like state. That may have been for the best, as credible men whispered that the Queen had taken a lover during the King's collapse, and that Edward might not even be Henry's son. Such dissidents found a champion in Duke Richard of York, the single richest man in England, who judged Somerset and Margaret responsible for England losing the 100 Years' War. Duke Richard openly complained of the Queen's favorites and began jockeying for power with several other notables. While Richard of York was sincere in his objections to Queen Margaret's misgovernment, he also dreamed of wearing the crown, and had a strong claim as a descendant of Edward III. When the Great Council met to decide what to do in what they called the King's absence, Richard convinced them to declare him the Lord Protector of England. He carried out sweeping court reforms, removing Somerset from power and appointing his men in Somerset's place. Yet, just as Richard consolidated power, Henry finally came out of his catatonic state around Christmas 1453. He learned that he had a son, and that Richard of York had all but tried to usurp him. Queen Margaret had little difficulty in convincing her weak-willed husband to banish Richard of York to the English colonies on the eastern coast of Ireland. Yet neither the king nor the queen realized how much support Richard had among the nobles, who had long since grown weary of court corruption and felt humiliated by the disasters in France. It proved a simple matter for Duke Richard and his ally Earl Neville of Warwick, later called Warwick the Kingmaker, to assemble their private armies in the north. They marched south to confront the Lancastrian army at St. Albans, north of London, on May 22, 1455. 2,000 Lancastrians under the Duke of Buckingham fortified the town. When the two armies met, they attempted to negotiate, but it must not have gone well, for the Yorkist rebels assaulted the Lancastrian walls. Bloody street fighting erupted. Soldiers stomped dead comrades on streets red with blood. After several grueling hours, the Earl of Warwick led a small strike force through the back lanes and rear gardens of town and made a surprise appearance in the market square. Upon realizing that Warwick outflanked them, the Lancastrians fled. Warwick's longbowmen rained arrows on Henry's bodyguard, killing Buckingham and wounding the king himself. James Butler, the Lancastrian Earl of Wiltshire, famously fled the battle, fearing that his good looks would be ruined by a Yorkist sword. Upon learning of the disaster, Queen Margaret fled with her infant son Edward of Westminster to France. Richard of York, in one battle, made himself Lord Protector of England once more. Yet can he fulfill his dreams of reforming the English government and becoming king? We'll find out in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this installment of the Legendarium. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.